Welcome back to Lit versus Genre, everybody. I am Steve,
And I am Jeff.
and we are here at chapter 15. I
15.
I read this over. I guess like sometimes I do this when I'm reading. I don't look at the chapter title because I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Not every book has a chapter title, right? Like
true, true.
Strangers and Friends. But I should be
hmm
more trained because I should be looking at the symbol, which I also forgot to look at. But this is a new symbol, I think. I don't think we've got this like sun thing.
It's so interesting you said that. I was literally flipping through to check because I was like, oh, I want to comment that this is the first time we've gotten him. And I'm like, wait a second.
I,
But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that it's the first time.
yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
what that's in reference to, other than it's
Mhm.
daytime. Was there? Am I forgetting about some like sun symbol, or is
There,
this one
there
of
is,
the sparks that she sees?
that is another good guess. But yeah, there is a sun symbol in the chapter.
Oh, okay. Hmm. Oh, I forget it. We'll hit it, I guess, as
Ooh,
we're going
we'll, we'll
along.
get, we'll get there.
So this is our big day out on the town, everybody. But of
Mhm.
course, you got to start with some breakfast. And what's a better place to get breakfast than down in the kitchen with the cook who is pissed off because of all these dead rats, very conveniently giving us the
Mhm.
dead rats that we will connect to the dream. And
Indeed.
I don't understand why we're blaming this. Wait, why would we blame a cat for dead rats? Like that's what I mean, she explains that's what cats are supposed to do.
Mhm.
That's why you
Mhm.
have a cat. But anyway, this cat could just be like super lazy cuz it ain't
Right. They
killing
kill
these
them and they
rats.
leave them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. Don't eat them at all. Just break their backs, you know.
Well, I'm
uh
only in it for the funds.
Anyway, so he knows oh crap. This dark one has been, I don't know, I guess killing rats here somehow through his
Mhm.
mind. Through his mind. Oh, this was something that I had forgotten about too. Actually, I had the thought as I was reading it. I was like, "Oh, they all feel so trapped by Moraine because she said I'll kill you if you leave." And that
Mhm.
made me think back to that. Like, oh, she gave you like this coin and you were indebted to her like a long time ago, but that has never come up again at any point. Except then I literally was thinking it like 5 seconds before I read this.
He
He
heard you.
has no money except this coin. Gotta remind us of this little
Yep.
mystery thing. Um,
Robert Jordan knew it would have been just long
just enough. But I'd
to
be like, what was up with that coin? Aha.
boom.
Perfect
That's right.
pacing.
Yep.
Impeccable. All right, and then I just also
Amazing.
like the piece of string he thought might be useful. All right,
Yeah, I
cool.
love that part too. I was like, it's string, string, but I was like, I still got it. Okay. I was like, what do you think it's going to be useful for? Then you
All right. So, I guess not much else happens here. Let's get to Min, I
yeah,
guess, unless there's anything else to comment on here.
I just enjoyed the dancing scene where like with the innkeep like dancing around trying to put the apron on her while she's trying to take it off. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoyed that as like the vehicle that we get to learn about what's happening. So, but yeah, no, then I figured we would be talking about.
Yeah. I will comment on there's some more like classism and stuff going
Mhm.
on. Like this is endemic of, I guess just fantasy worlds in general. That almost
Mhm.
to like put you in the world. You're like, oh yeah, they're gonna be
Yeah,
jerks to the miners. All this riffraff down here. Uh,
right.
and so we get a little of that. And all right. Oh, we get some actual Tom storytelling too.
We
I
do.
think for like the first time, like in media res, Tom storytelling, and they were whipping rainbows against an
They were.
endless sky. And so this was interesting that this is the middle level
Mhm.
of flourish, I guess,
Yeah.
that we get. And so what's the lame one that he doesn't talk in? Oh, he doesn't like to talk in
Come.
common. We're not gonna talk in
Mhm.
common. But Moraine must have been in high chant when she was telling her story.
That does seem appropriate. I mean, right now I think it's kind of location appropriate, right? Like he's in a decent sized city, so he's using the middle
Right.
version.
Though I hate to see his version of the high chant if whipping rainbows is just like the medium flourish. I'd be like, oh dang, what are they doing in the high chant one?
I mean, it definitely makes me wonder. It
Yeah.
definitely makes me want to see that performance.
All right. Da, da, da. So here, this is gonna bring me to one of my major problems with this whole
I've
chapter.
been
This is
waiting.
a long one,
I've been
but
waiting.
he I can then again see Jordan being like, okay, I haven't mentioned the coin in a while, so here's the coin. So let me mention again, what would Moraine do if she knew about this dream?
Mhm.
Probably help you, MFer. She told you like 3 chapters ago that she could like help you with your dreams.
Right.
I still, and you really gotta swallow it for the end of this chapter because you have to
Mhm.
buy that they are super scared to tell her anything, that it's super important to keep this dream a secret.
Mhm.
And I just don't, I cannot like feel it in my bones. I'm like, tell her. It feels very like the plot needs us not to tell her. Right? And
What I,
I'm like, I would tell her immediately. you know?
what I thought you would appreciate is not only do we not tell Moraine, we tell your favorites.
I
Tell.
know, right? And so I'm also getting the feel from the comments now that I shouldn't be as suspicious of Thom as I am. Oh, but my God, he says some shady shit in this chapter.
I love it, man. No, I think you should because again, I think this is what's important to see an alternate perspective on things, right?
Right.
I figured that this would be a problematic aspect to this chapter because previously you've said why, okay, yeah, maybe Moraine's scary, but it still seems like she's done a lot of good stuff.
Right.
Wouldn't you just trust her? And then this sort of stuff we've gotten to try to make us question her just hasn't been enough to sell you, right?
Yeah.
And we saw that sort of big sell in the previous chapter, right, with the dream and the bad guy saying, that Aes Sedai are up to all these, bad things. They've had these other men as puppets, and you'll just be
Hmm.
a puppet too, right? But since he seems really shady as well,
Clearly bad.
why are we listening to the super evil guy?
right. Right.
Right? Like maybe he's trying to get you to do something against your interests because he's super evil. Right. So
Like you see one of these like Looney Tunes cartoons where there's like two, there's like on both shoulder and like, oh no, who should I listen to? Should I listen to the nice lady who saved my life from Trollocs, or should I listen to Dude in Black? And don't bet on
Mhm.
black in this book is what I've learned so far.
So, I think that is a good way to sum it up. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely expecting to be at a stage where like you buy this, that you buy
Mm-hmm.
that they're scared of Moraine and they feel like they need to tell someone who's more normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, if you're not feeling that, then this part's just gonna. Luckily, that's not everything that happens here, right?
Sure.
So I feel like there could be other things that are driving the narrative for someone who's feeling as you do. But I thought this might be a decent pain point.
Look at sensible parent here. Do you think we can trust Tom? Think about that. Think about that, boys.
Hey, it gives us a sense of who we should be listening to as opposed to Matt, who's playing tricks on.
Oh my God. And he was even more of an idiot in this
Oh
chapter.
my
Everybody's pretty much like behaving the way I expect them to behave. The
God.
characters that I hate continue to make me hate them. Except, well, I am confused a little bit about like this is also threaded in that like Rand is feeling bad through the whole in
Right.
some vague, non-specific way. His head
Mhm.
still hurt. It was worse, not better.
Mhm.
We get all these little ones, and then he acts kind of oddly a little bit later as well. But
I was curious, how was that for you? Was that like it was so ambiguous, who cares, or what do you think?
wait, when he basically like talks back
Yeah, just
to
with him
the
being sick and acting weird and just that the
oh
fact that
well,
that stuff happens.
I
Was that intriguing or
well when I got to that part, like, okay, like, I've been reading the whole chapter that he's feeling sick, fine, but I
Mhm.
didn't notice that, like, anything mentally off about
Right,
him. So I
right.
thought that was really odd that that was the thing that was supposed to explain to me why he was suddenly mouthing off
Mhm.
um, to these children of the light. I also really like children of the light that like in order to shorten it, Jordan just calls them children. He's like the children were,
Yep.
and I'm like, that sort of is not very intimidating for this group that I think I'm supposed to be scared of. They go around calling
Uh,
themselves children. Uh,
no, it is funny. I was going to say that I feel like he's playing with both, right? Because they act all pompous, right?
right.
And we are, Matt helps knock them down a peg and everything, right? So I feel like we are supposed to quasi be intimidated by these, like, well, the way they are, very extreme, but then also sort of poking fun at them. So I feel like it kind of does that, right? By
Mm-hmm.
calling. But I hear what you're saying. If he was just going for intimidation, then it doesn't seem too effective.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, so we get to that part and he starts mouthing off to them and we're jumping past Min, I guess, but since we're on the
Oh, that's
topic,
right. We totally.
we might as well
A
talk
lot
about it.
happens in this chapter.
A
This is a
lot.
big chapter. None
Yes.
of it what I would expect from like let's see the town, but a lot of stuff.
I mean, this is yeah, like what are you going to put here? I mean, things have to happen that have importance and
Oh, you say that as a non-fantasy reader.
oh, really? Really?
So many of these chapters would just be telling you about the town and like him eating a tasty meat pie and like maybe hearing another story or something like that wouldn't be
Ah.
directly connected to the plot. But I think, yeah, as you say, this chapter does continue to escalate tensions of the plot. So I think it's used in an effective way.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. And I haven't read much of the genre, but you mean like a lot of chapters would just be like put over to pure like world building and there just wouldn't
Mhm.
be like a
There
crucial
would be
event
some.
in it?
There would be some. It just feels like this one has what like three crucial events in it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe or four. Like confirmation the dream is true, learning about more stuff from men, bumping into white cloaks, randomly seeing Pat and Fane. Like wisdom is there. Like this thing is chock full of like crazy stuff happening. I'm saying I think a lot of people when we're like, get to town, here's my chance. Like I've earned a chance. Everything is right. I've earned a chance to like yeah, like this is the beach day. Like this is the day off. We
Mm.
just get to learn about the characters and the relationship with each other and getting to explore the world, right? As opposed to like multiple mounting tensions. So I just thought it was an interesting choice. How the Robert Jordan jam-packed this chapter full of so many things.
Yeah. Oh, I much prefer that to
Right.
the former. I don't want a snooze fest going around the town, If things aren't
Right.
happening, I'm out of here.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's why I thought at least there was other stuff because
yeah.
I felt the like not telling Moraine thing was not going to land, but we got Min, we got White Clips, we got Pat and Fane. I thought he was dead. Like there's a lot going.
Oh, right. I totally forgot about that, dude. Just,
I,
everybody shows up, though. This is the weird thing about this chapter. Everybody shows up. And to be like, somehow Pat and Fane, and okay, might as well go all the way to the end, that Nynaeve of all people show up. We can evade a man bat, no problem. But can we get away from Nynaeve? No, impossible. And
Did you not see Land's surprise?
that I was like not by like they're even like, oh yeah, she talked to a Hightower who I was like, all of this was so we did everything. We sunk a ferry so that people couldn't follow us. And
She got him.
Nynaeve just fucking just came across.
Yep. It's
Crazy.
building up how badass Nynaeve is. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I guess so.
It's very
Man.
the thing that's too much for me in this chapter, which you're probably gonna laugh about, is him running into Matt. I was like, really?
Right,
That's what
really? That's the one.
everything else I'm cool with.
That he runs into Pat and Fane, that Nynaeve was there, all of that. You're like, cool. Yup. totally
cool. Oh, cool.
plausible. Completely
Because
plausible.
the guy's acting crazy. So who knows how he got there, how long he's been there. And they explain Nynaeve's badassery. They even say, I don't even know how Hightower got back across.
Right, right.
Like, we don't even know how he got back across. But he did.
He swam it. He freestyle swam across the thing.
Yep. That's butterfly.
Oh man. Well, like that one, and like Perrin comes down right as they're coming in, and they like slam into each other. So like everybody, there's a lot of like moments of convenience. I do think a little bit in this chapter.
It's farcical. It's farcical.
So yeah. So let's talk about this thing of Rand going off here, because I think that's maybe like the most interesting mystery, and I don't know, I could theorize about it. He's like, I think I have a cold. All of these things, I was like, yeah, he feels bad, blah, 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 whatever. And then he acted weird, and when I read acted weird, I actually went back to look back and go like, wait, was he acting weird somewhere else?
Right.
And I don't think so. I think it's just these little like, I feel ill sort of moments. And look at Matt's like, remember the fairy? We should keep quiet. Shut up, Matt. Shut up. He did that. She did that.
Yeah, I would say he was acting normal. It's not until he starts like feeling really good, I believe, but then he's acting weird because he's like felt sick, right? But then he feels good, and then he starts acting weird.
Yeah.
I want to say that.
So like, it had been an easy shot for any two robbers lab, but the effect was certainly all that could be hoped for. So like, and again, I'm never sure in these how much we should be narrating or reminding people of like what happened. But Matt's like, oh look, I'm gonna mess with these dudes. Here's a good idea. Here's a really great idea while we're trying to lay low, not get captured by people who hate Aes Sedai, who we're chilling with. I'm gonna go F with these dudes. So he goes out, he shoots this he shoots like so that these barrels roll down and like splash onto their white cloaks or whatever. And so after he does this, Rand is like, but the effect was certainly all that could be hoped for. He could not help laughing. The humor seemed to be wrapped in wool, but it was still funny. And then they're staring at him. You find something funny. This is kind of like the typical like school bully sort of thing. Right. Rand's laughter cut short. He and the children. So this is where like, but it's funny because it's just kind of Jordan doing it as shorthand, right? It's not like what they're calling themselves, but it's just like he and the children were alone in the mud. The crowd that had been around them have found urgent business. So like these other people think these dudes are serious because they're out of here. Does the light hold your tongue? Okay, so in the back of his head was a frantic wonder at what he was doing, because he kind of shows him his sword.
Right. He's like planning to cover it, but instead he sweeps it back elegantly.
Right. And then the tingle filled Rand. The heat had grown to a fever. He wanted to laugh. It felt so good. A small voice in his head shouted that something was wrong. But all he could think of was how full of energy he felt, nearly bursting with it. Smiling, he rocked to his heels and waited for what was going to happen. Vaguely, distantly, he wondered what it would be. So, like, this is, it's weird. It almost feels like that looking outside of yourself at, like, what's happening. I'm not interpreting it as he is, like... It almost feels like possession, like that sentence of being like, oh, he's just watching this all from afar, that like whatever this like sort of rebellious version of him is not really him or something.
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree that does seem how it reads. It's an odd part because it definitely recognizes that he's acting weird, right? And there's like a piece of himself that's recognizing it, but then he's just doing something else regardless. Right. So I was just, like I said, I'm curious your thoughts on that. But yeah, you definitely found those parts where it's it's showing him like feeling good or feeling better. And it is later that it specifically is like he felt so amazing. But like he seems happy and stuff all of a sudden with like eager to see this joke. So yeah, it's an odd thing, right? That this emotion then affects how he's acting,
Mm.
right? Which I know just saying that sentence doesn't sound that odd. Emotion affects action, of course. But like him feeling better suddenly makes him stand up to white clothes, right? Which would seem crazy. So it is an odd situation that takes place for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't have much interpretation of that other than like, I feel like, he's the dude. He's gonna be the next in this line of names, that are
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be, going from lose all the way through low gain false dragon dude. So I don't know if that's like a false dragon thing, just like suddenly like he's getting in touch with this distant reincarnated version of himself or something who would stand up to these jerks and show off his sword or like stuff like that. Like that's one thing that's in my mind. Maybe that's what's happening. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it also feels I wouldn't have expected when that happened for him to feel so removed from it. Um,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
like that's not really him. I would almost have felt like that was his like true self coming out or something, and he would like own it more versus being like, "Why am I saying this? Let me look at this from afar." So I don't really know.
Mm. Yeah, no, I hear that. I hear that. It's interesting what you're saying. It almost sort of plays on this reluctant hero theme to a degree.
Mm,
Uh, how the kids are basically, with Perrin telling him when he was the sick one, right? And then Perrin's like, if I ever talk of leaving the Two Rivers again, kick me, right? Like this idea of it's this great adventure, but it sucks. Let me go home.
mm,
I don't know, just the way you phrased that about how he's not embracing this other side of him. He's almost resistant, or not fully resistant, but like looking at it from afar as opposed to embracing it. I just wonder if that's like what he's experiencing in a microcosm overall.
right. Also, at
Yeah.
this moment, okay, so here's the one mental thing that does go along with the
Mm.
sickness, where is like a pro Moraine sudden thought, right? Like his sickness is getting so bad, he thinks he might have to go to Moraine. He was surprised that even the thought of the one power being used on him did not bother him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Like everybody's so scared of Moraine, but then when he's feeling this like sickness that starts to affect his mind, this is the first time that his mind is, I
Oh
think,
yeah, yeah.
affected by this sickness. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I don't really know what to make of that. But let's sift through the tea leaves, and of course, like this, it's an interesting conversation to have with you when you're like sifting through all the clues type part,
Mm-hmm.
because the min part is just like, let me just throw out a whole bunch of things,
Right.
um, and we'll make of them what you will. And Rand's definitely sounds like simultaneously the most important and the worst of all the things that
Right.
get said. And like, because I guess there's supposed to be in our minds some uncertainty, since we do get confirmed that all the boys are having the
Right.
same dream, not exactly the same, because
Mm-hmm.
they're all different long distance phone calls to the Dark One. He varies his pitch slightly
Right.
each
Zoom
time.
meetings.
But they all have been having it, so then you're like, oh well, okay, we still don't know which one it really is. But from Min's descriptions, well, we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, Min grabs him. So, okay, let's talk about this line.
Mm-hmm.
With dark eyes even bigger than eggs. And I'm like, oh, we're noticing Min's big eyes, and she has bigger eyes than Egg.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already shipping them. I'm already shipping them. I'm done with Egg. I'm past Egg. I'm over Egg. It's now Min and Rand forever. Is my
There it is. There it is. Yeah, I was wondering because I know previously we were talking about sort of the sadness of the stuff didn't seem to be happening between like Rand and Egg, right?
mm,
Like where that was going to go. And so I was curious with the entrance of Min, how you'd be feeling.
Yeah, and there's also in the next chapter, which I haven't finished yet. I did read like the first part of that, and then there's like
Mhm.
another like hinting at like, or at least Tom makes like a snide comment about like, oh, I
Yeah.
I know why you want to stay here with Min or something like that. So I'm like, oh dang, I guess Min is a possibility here.
Well, some of these lines are pretty cool that she says to him. I don't know. This is some of my favorite dialogue
Mm.
in the chapter. Um, but you go ahead and then I'll say the part that you're right around.
Okay, so we're getting the first thing, we learn why uh Moraine wanted been around because Ming can see stuff in the future, not
Mhm.
very, of course, clear or immediately helpful stuff, but she can see stuff
Of
that
course.
apparently will play out in the future. But it's funny, she kind of like explains her power and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's really." She gives her the example she gives is really useful. She's like, "Oh yeah, I see these two people and I know that they're gonna get married in the future." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a nice, like, very specific prediction piece of knowledge that you know." And then she's like, "But with everything I see around you, I don't know what the heck it means." Like, of course you don't, man.
Oh, you were so waiting for it to be like, oh, okay,
Right.
so what's going to happen?
Uh,
Nope.
but so the one thing she sees is they all have these sparks all around them, and a
Mhm.
big shadow darker than midnight. So that's obviously bad. Um,
Does
then,
seem that way.
but let's talk about this. So this I also thought was like ballsy. So, um, the girl, she's part of it,
Mhm.
and the Gleeman's part of it. I highlighted that. He's not just along for the ride. He's part of this. So
I think that was a hate highlight that happened right there. Like,
shady. Shady. And so then he's like, "You're in love with her, with Egg. I can tell that even without seeing any images, she loves you too, but she's not for you or you for her." So Min's already broken them up, basically. For
like boom,
us.
it's over.
Did you care about that romantic tension? Too bad. Min's seen into the future, and it's not happening.
Right.
But I just had to highlight, what's that supposed to mean? Yeah, exactly, Rand, exactly. Um, but yeah, but I mean, this was bold. I was like, he wouldn't even admit that, but I'm glad somebody's, saying it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you like her like being just like boom, put it on the table?
Yeah, I like her because, somebody's gotta, Rand's an idiot about this aspect, and somebody's gotta set him straight.
Right.
So
Well, and then too, did you like just that we get this, right? It sounds like you said, yeah, that it's nice that someone just says it, right? So we
right,
can better
right. Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I think they're toast. I think they're history. I don't think, I don't know what else is going to go on here, but I don't know. I am de-invested. I am now on Team Min. Now at this point. So, okay, so let's get into these things that she sees.
Yes.
Um
Yes.
so let's look at the Gleamans. I didn't highlight the Gleamans, but because I hate this guy so
Oh, right.
much, let's break into
Right.
what's going on with him. The strongest images around the Gleeman are a man, not him, juggling fire, and the White Tower. And he really wanted to go, like, he was like, "I've never performed at the White Tower." Like, he really wanted to
Mhm.
go there. So that seems pretty whack. I don't know who this curly-haired fellow.
Oh, that's Baron.
Oh, that's Perrin. Destroy. Oh, yeah, yeah. The strongest thing about the big. Okay, so that's the only line we get about the
Yeah,
Gleeman.
it's just that.
Okay, and then he has a wolf, a broken crown, trees flower around him. That actually sounds not too bad. Matt gets a red eagle, an eye on a balance scale, a dagger with a ruby, a horn, and a laughing face. Again, all right. I'm sure all these things will pop up sooner or later. And there are other things, but you see what I mean. This time I can't make up or down out of any of it. And then what about me? Okay, a sword that isn't a sword. So that's clearly the thing in the tier that we were talking about before.
Mm.
Or I'm saying clearly, maybe it's not, but like Thom specifically said something about it not necessarily being a sword. A golden crown of laurel leaves, a beggar's staff, you pouring water on sand, a bloody hand, and a white hot iron, and then 3 women standing over a funeral pyre with you on it. A black rock wet with blood, and she's like gonna keep going.
It's like, I'm already dead.
Yeah, right. Okay, you killed me. We can stop here. So that sounds like the most intense. The sword that isn't a sword goes along with my theorizing. I feel like that I did last episode where he's gonna grab this thing because he's the dragon reborn, and it's gonna be bad times when he does. Boom. So yeah, I mean that's all kind of cool stuff, but it definitely makes Rand seem the most important out of all those, you know?
I feel like Robert Jordan keeps tugging us both ways, right? We learned something and Rand seems special, and then it's like, oh no, wait, they all experienced that. Okay, oh no, you get these? Well, you get the sword that's not a sword, maybe, right? Which we learned is supposed to indicate the dragon. Okay, now you seem special again, right? So I feel like he is sort of tugging us back and forth with that, which I do think is an interesting choice. Like, because he didn't have to. It could have just been Rand with his friends, and we knew the whole time Rand is there and the friends are just there to help or something, right? But he is continuing to keep this mystery quasi going. How much longer do you think you would even want it to go?
Oh, the mystery? I'm just buckled in now that the whole thing is going to be a mystery that I'm like never going to know.
All right.
That's what I feel like. I feel like it's... Well, I think I mentioned right at the beginning, too, with all this, like, Man in Black stuff, I was like, those dudes from Lost totally read this and just took all this, like, Man in Black stuff from it. And now I'm thinking, oh my god, this is the whole reason Lost exists, is because they were like, you got mysteries? Let's put more mysteries on top of the mysteries. Hey, dog, you like mysteries? Well, I got some mysteries for your mysteries.
Yeah, I don't think the story is quite that bad. I mean, when I say I don't remember how much is resolved by the end of book 1.
Oh, okay,
so for you, there will be mysteries forever, unless this inspires you to read the other, dozen novels. But I will say that this part that you highlighted is pretty cool. I definitely was appreciating this particular reread because some of that stuff stood out to me more than before. So just to
now
show,
you know it's referring to in future things.
Right. I'm just saying that it's what am I on my 3rd, 4th reread of this book? I'm just saying, like, I only noticed it this time because I feel like I'm reading more specifically since we're going to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it is just kind of neat seeing stuff. I like, for example, even Matt being like, the dagger with the ruby sounds cool. What's this eye business though? I feel like he was reacting in sort of a fun way to these predictions.
Right.
And that they are just these like random snippets. And now we're kind of waiting for, I mean, these are potentially a lot of different things to happen. Right. So it's like making these, I think it's a fascinating way for Jordan to kind of like make promises about the future, much like he was making promises when we had like Rand's dreams of seeing like Tarvalon or something, right? Like I feel like he's finding ways to tell us where this book is going, as if he even needs to in a chapter that's filled with so much crazy stuff anyway. But it does feel like he's stacking, right? He's like, all this crazy stuff is happening and here's crazy things for every person, multiple ones. But it's not like he even said one for each of them, right? And so I just feel like it's a lot, but in a, I don't know, motivating way for at least a certain type of reader.
So this is, in a way, spoilers, but be honest with me. Do some of these, like, not pay off till the bitter end?
I mean, some take a while.
But yeah, because I am, like, curious always in this sort of stuff, like, how much do you have it all plotted out until the very end? How much do you make up as you go along, or the story grows in the telling, or all that, so like if on like last page of the final book there's a laughing face that Matt sees, it's just be like, check, we got it, checked it off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too spoilery, but yeah, I mean, some of these you do wait a while for. But I was literally going through and being like, do all these happen? You know what I mean? I don't want to say, right?
Right.
But yeah, I think he does a nice balance because some of these we are going to get soon,
Hmm.
which then of course starts to make us wonder, wait, are the others going to happen,
Right.
right? But this is definitely there's a quick burn aspect to it, but there is also a very, very, very slow burn
Yeah.
to some of this stuff.
I can only assume that uh, Pat and Fane is here for some reason. I could not
Mm-hmm.
understand why he was here or like what the point of this little
Right.
encounter was. It's very brief. It doesn't go for very long.
He's
Um,
acting weird.
yeah, it was super weird. Um, Pat and Fane. So he was like, "We thought you were dead. Dead. Not me in the third person. I know which way to which way to jump." And then he says, "I have and always will. I'll live a long time, longer than you idiot," is what he like is about to say, and he doesn't say that. Um, but I was like, okay, this is all fine, but I didn't really understand. Like, oh, they say they're gonna meet up again. Wait, we'll leave tomorrow. And then is he like gonna come to the inn to find them or something?
Yeah, that's the question, right?
Okay.
I feel like it definitely gets overrun by sort of a bigger plot point or a more easily understandable plot point of Nynaeve being there, right? Or
Right,
Nynaeve
right.
being
And this is another
with it.
thing that we're gonna keep from Moraine.
Oh yeah, we keep it
This
all.
is,
We
this is
keep
this is no
it
good. And Rand's even like voice the reason here. There's no reason for you to be afraid of her. Wait, what are
right.
you talking about, Rand? There's no reason for you to be afraid of her. What? Can we just get straight whether we're actually scared of this woman or not? Like what?
Follow your own advice.
Yes, Father.
I mean, in some ways, I think that's realistic, right? How we'll say something for ourselves, but then the opposite for
Mm,
someone else. But I do also understand if you haven't been sold as a reader why he should be afraid of her,
mm.
then no, I get that. But I feel like there's so much happening in this chapter. It's like those things can happen, but then we're just on to the next.
Yeah, yeah. So we have Matt and this whole encounter. Okay, so that happens. Rand just gets saved by the
Right?
cops, basically. Like,
Basically, yeah.
all right. So the cops just show up. So here's
Right,
the other thing that I thought was funny. So then they find Thom, and they're like,
right.
okay, finally we can. Tom's taking a break from his storytelling to go prance around in the city and show off his cloak to everybody. And so
Indeed.
we're gonna talk to him. Okay, so back when we were in Two Rivers, people were always going on about saying the Dark One's name or so. I can't remember what exactly they said,
Mhm.
but like that was like a metaphor really for like it kind of felt like a metaphor for sinning or doing something bad is mentioning the Dark One or whatever. You can't mention him. And then Rand just comes right out and says this dude's name in like the middle of the city with all these children of light people. And like of course Thom is immediately like, don't say that. But I was like, yeah, but you already know not to like say the Dark One's name, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. I do wonder if Jordan's played with a name like Rand's used to not saying the Dark One, but he's not used to not saying Baalzamon, right?
Right.
Um, I do hear you, right? Like, where was the moment of Rand being like, "Oh, I knew that," right?
Right.
Because it was that, then it would be explained. But I do feel like reading it again, there is Rand. We do get to Rand's thoughts on things, but there's a lot of places where I'm surprised where we don't see what Rand is thinking. Rand is also kept from us.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of information that's kept.
Yeah, well, like where do you mean that you would expect it to get more of Rand's
Oh, like right here. Like I
interior?
would expect,
Right.
Thom to ball him out for saying it, and then Rand to be like, idiot. Like, well, obviously, like my whole life, I've grown up knowing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think I do wonder if maybe that was in it, and it was a cut that was needed to get. This is a long ass chapter,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I feel like little things like that, if they were ever there, just got tossed aside. So these, like, again, 4 to 5 other things could all take place.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is strange. It is weird for sure.
Okay, so let's put some stuff into the Thomas Shady file. So if only one of you had had this dream. Okay, so Tom, what do you know? Tom, what do you know? When did you know it? Like what? Like why? That means he knows a lot more about what's going on here. And then at like this point too, I had the thought where I was like, why aren't these kids asking more questions on a regular basis? Like, why haven't we asked Moraine like a long time ago? Well, what does the Dark One want with us? Why are they coming after us specifically? Like, I feel like if I was in that situation, I'd be like, yeah, like, clearly you know something because you came looking for people this age too. So, like,
Right.
what's the deal, lady? And like, but it's odd that like I didn't even kind of have that thought until I'm like, wait, Tom knows a lot more about what's going on, and then I was like, wait, Moraine knows a ton about what's going on. Why are people just asking these questions?
I think the reason you didn't think of it earlier is because I want to say there is a part where Moraine says, she doesn't know why they're after the boys specifically, but she opposes anything that they want, or at least she implies that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm not sure what they're going to use you for, but I know they want you, so that means I do not want them to have you, kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, they could be asking more like targeted questions. I think there's always the danger of having someone there that knows everything, just like the danger of having someone who's overpowered and dealing with that, right? That same Gandalf effect. Like Gandalf knows everything, sort of, but he won't necessarily give you the answers for reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same sort of thing with Moraine. That's another reason why they're building up the fear and Aes Sedai and everything. It's like what they tell you isn't necessarily what you think you heard and stuff like that. So there's a lot of baked in distress for the Aes Sedai and like what they would say, but still, why not try, right? But then I think that's where the fear is meant to come in. Like, we're sort of scared of her. She's creepy, so we don't ask her random things. But it is your life, right? So wouldn't that push past it? So I'm basically saying, like, I hear you, but I think these other things are there to kind of like keep us going as we are, right? Yeah, it does seem like a tough line to walk if you want to have a character like Moraine, but you also want to keep stuff in mystery. I mean, and then how many questions is too many questions? How many questions is too few questions for it to seem realistic from the kids? That type of stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah, I could buy that. I don't remember that line exactly, but like if she's like, I don't really know, I just know that they want you.
Yeah,
but clearly she has something more about the ages. She knows something about like why
she definitely
the ages,
Right. They totally could have, because like I said, I don't think she specifically comes out and said. I think she more implies that like they want you, and I don't want them to have whatever it is they want. So sure, that could have been a perfect moment. Like, why do they want us? Right? Or like, why did you come even looking? Why were you even here? Right? That sort of stuff.
Anyway,
in terms of Thom line,
yeah,
I do think that could mean that like if one person had it, it could just be a bad dream. But if multiple people are having it, then it's like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, again, those ellipses, like he uses these ellipses so much, and like so, like if only one of you had the dream, it's just randomness. So this must mean it means something more important, and that's it. Versus, or I know what it means for a bunch of people to be having this dream versus just one of you. Like, I don't know, because there are ellipses there, so.
So I'm saying, anything could have happened.
Yeah, and so I guess I have a feeling that and yeah, it's weird doing this online too, and then like, and we've talked about comments a few times, and I don't want anybody to stop making comments. I love the comments, but it does like. Now I feel like because of comments, I'm supposed to like Thom more or something, or I'm not supposed to be so suspicious of Thom all the time.
I love you. It's just Thom. Do not change a thing.
I can't help it though. I can't help it. So yeah, and this like, I guess this like this makes sense, this rationale. Like, once you tell, like, you can always change your mind later, but once you tell, it's too late. Just like with like getting a haircut, don't go too short because you can't go back. But like, even that though seems self-serving. Wouldn't that be like the kind of BS like explanation somebody would give when they really just want to keep the secret from Moraine for a reason, like your team Nynaeve Dark One, maybe possibly.
Completely. No, I mean, there's a reason why you think that, right? Like, there is supporting information of like, Thom hasn't told us everything. Thom's got some sort of secret. Why does he talk like this? How is he so knowledgeable? Right? Like, there's definitely questions about Thom. And you're just spinning one way with those questions.
Yeah, and I love Perrin. Perrin, I think Perrin is my my familiar here. Perrin's my alter ego in the thing, because like Perrin looks at the confusion. It's very important, Thom says, that you didn't tell about the dream. Very important. This isn't just like, oh, you can't take it back. He seems really intent on this.
He's invested.
Very invested. Very important that we got to Perrin before he opened his big mouth. Perrin's like, what? What do you... No, I haven't. I just got out of bed. I haven't done this. And Thom says, I will explain later, with a significant look at the people passing in and out. And then Perrin's like, all right, still looking confused. I'm like, I'm with you, Perrin. These people are crazy.
I thought you'd love the line where he's like, why'd you tell the Gleeman?
Right. He's the best. He's my favorite. And then he drops the news that Nynaeve is on his side. This blew my mind. I did not expect Nynaeve. Yes. But I mean, not entirely in a good way, because I'm like, what? There is no way. There is no way that she got there. She tracked him somehow. She followed him when Man-Bat cannot do this. He's so easily duped. She I was like, no. What?
She's a wisdom.
You think a little thing like a Sunken Fairy could stop her? Well, we expected it to stop the armies of the Dark One, so yes, I did expect it to stop her.
Like, Jordan's literally like, you fool. Like, you said it? What? What do you mean? Oh my god, this is amazing. I hear what you're saying. That one, it blew you away because what? But then also because it seemed totally impossible, right?
Yeah.
So that now they gotta like sell you on the impossibility of her doing it. You're beginning it with, you think a thing like a Sunken Fairy could stop her, and then they continue it in the next chapter.
All right. The last little note is that we do, I guess this it's cold enough in there to snow means Moraine and Nynaeve are not getting along very well in their little conversation. So battle lines. And we shall see.
Which side will you choose?
Oh, you know what side I'm on. Whatever side Thom is not on is the side that I'm on.
I love it. I was just gonna say real quick with this part, I do hear you that like I was not expecting Nynaeve to be there, because we had not previously learned, as we will in the next chapter, that she's like a great tracker or something, right? So it does just feel like, what? Right? Like, so I don't think we're supposed to have a sense. I feel like he's kind of bucking tradition with this to a degree, that like, a group sets out and then somebody comes to bring them back, because that actually does feel a bit more realistic, and we get into that more in the next chapter, so we can talk more about that. But I think it does hit this node if we've been thinking about like, wait, small town, close ties, like, would they just let 4 kids suddenly be spirited away, right? Some people in the town be trying to go like get them back. So I think it's just kind of like, wait, what? And then, but societally, it sort of makes some sense. Obviously, we can talk about the logistics of how they actually do it, right? In the next chapter. But I thought that was a little neat moment of like this unexpected, but thinking back, like, okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I will say that it was definitely the up to this point, like the biggest twist of like, wait, huh? That
Right.
happened in it so far. So, yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see what happens.
Cool, cool.
Oh,
I look forward to the next chapter.
yeah. See you then, everybody.